Today on The Spin, can the Irish derail Ohio State in the CFP Championship? The Chiefs start their quest for a record three-peat. And is Bills Mafia ready for Lamar and the Ravens? It's all next on The Spin. Well, hello, my friends. Ali Melendez here, welcoming you to this Sports Insiders The Spin. Thanks so much for joining us today. And my goodness, what a weekend we have coming up, right? The divisional round of the NFL playoffs on Saturday and Sunday, followed by the CFP National Championship on Monday night. I mean, amazing games across the board. And of course, we'll get right to it in a minute, starting with that big Ohio State-Notre Dame matchup. But before we do, a quick shout out to our friends at BetOnline. Now, all of our odds here on The Spin are provided by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and #1 source for everything football. So thanks to BetOnline. You know how much we love you guys. All right, well, here we go, my friends. The College Football Championship is set for Monday night. The Ohio State Buckeyes and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Here to break it down for us, Drew Butler, Gabe Ikard, and Danny Cannell. Welcome, fellas.
What's up, Ali? Thanks so much. And I cannot believe it's here, guys. The end of the 2024 college football season. We have made it to the College Football Playoff National Championship Game. And I don't know if you could have really expected these two teams to be the ones that are last standing. I know our buddy Danny Cannell is obviously happy because neither of them are in the SEC, but we have an awesome matchup on deck for you Monday night. That's right. It's the College Football Playoff National Championship Game presented by AT&T, featuring the 8-seed Ohio State Buckeyes and the 7-seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on Monday night. And as it stands right now, guys, Ohio State an 8-point favorite. This total 46.5. Gabe Ikard, Danny Cannell, and myself, Drew Butler, here to break it all down. Gabe, we'll start with you. The game is in Atlanta, Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What are you thinking?
I have all the respect in the world for Marcus Freeman and this Notre Dame team. Losing to Northern Illinois and playing for the national title are typically two things that don't happen in the same season. Yeah. And they've just been fantastic ever since they lost that game. And they have found a way. They've kept pushing despite all of the injuries that they've had on both sides of the ball. But I think this is where the injuries show up. I think this is where you see Ohio State just be an overall deeper and more talented team. I'll lay the points with the Buckeyes. Danny, I'm having a tough time figuring out how Notre Dame could win this game or even keep it within double digits through 4 quarters. They're just depleted on both sides of the ball, man.
They are, but as you pointed out, they've been dealing with losses all season long with injuries. I mean, they've dealt with adversity both on the field. Losing the game against Northern Illinois was a shocker, and they've come a long way since then. But remember, going into the start of the season, they lost their starting left tackle, Jagasaw, it's come full circle almost, where he played some in the last game after recovering from that pec injury. But then they lose their starting left tackle, who's been starting now in that game, and Knapp, who's been playing there. So they've managed to survive all this. I would say resilience is probably the one word that describes this Notre Dame team, and they're going to need to be incredibly resilient in this one. But for the formula how to beat them, I think Notre Dame has some similarities to a team that wasn't very good this year that beat Ohio State in the horseshoe, and that's Michigan, right? And they get better quarterback play, but I think physical on the defensive side of the ball, really good defensive line, a run-based offensive attack that can keep the ball away from you, and a quarterback who's mobile and can present some problems. So I think a defensive, low-scoring game, which Texas did just kind of lay out a little bit of a game plan of how to slow down Ohio State's offense. Sure. So I think that's the formula, Gabe. I'm actually, maybe this is because I want to will it into existence, but I'm going to take those points because, and maybe again, I feel like this might be Bama Notre Dame all over again when it was close. It felt like Notre Dame was that team of destiny, Drew, and then all of a sudden they go out there and Bama runs through them. That could happen, but I do think this Notre Dame is much different than that team. Sure. And I think they've managed to be resilient all year long. I
Yeah,
think Ohio State wins, but I'll take those points.
The recipe is certainly out there. You're exactly right, DK. When you talk about what Texas did to Ohio State to really limit what was the most explosive offense we've seen the Buckeyes have throughout the first 2 rounds of the college football playoff. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, who was essentially unstoppable against Texas, only had 1 catch for 3 yards. Emeka Egbuka, it opened up a little bit more for him. But Notre Dame, for all intents and purposes, kept him in check as well. Egbuka had 5 catches for 51 yards. Look, this line opened up at some spots. Ohio State was a 10.5-point favorite. It's gotten down to 9.5, settling in now right around Ohio State being an 8-point favorite at BetOnline. But if you look at the entire season, and of course, Gabe, you talked about how Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. It really galvanized that team. The Fighting Irish were 10-2 against the spread throughout the regular season. Ohio State 6-6 against the spread throughout the regular season. Both of these teams, however, covered all 3 of their first games in the college football playoff. I think this game could get nasty. Ohio State has the number 1 ranked total defense in the country. Notre Dame right behind them, ranked 9th in the nation. But Notre Dame plus 17 in the turnover margin, guys. That's good for 5th in the country. Notre Dame wins the turnover battle week after week. They drag these teams into the mud. Riley Leonard heavily reliant on his legs to extend the chains, extend drives, just keep the clock moving. How about this? Okay. Talking about Notre Dame's defense, Penn State did not complete a pass to a wide receiver in the Orange Bowl game. That is insane. Al Golden, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, has the Fighting Irish playing a violent style of football. Their front 7 is highly disruptive as well. That's the recipe, guys. Drag Ohio State into the mud. And here's the key. Notre Dame's defense has got to get off to a good start. On the first 9 drives for Ohio State in the college football playoff, the first 3 drives in the first 3 games of the college football playoff, the Buckeyes have scored 6 touchdowns. Okay. If Notre Dame does not allow Ohio State to get out in front, I think the Fighting Irish have a really, really good chance, not only to keep this game close, but to win. It's what they've done all season long. I love the 8 points alongside you, Danny Cannell. There's no doubt about it. Marcus Freeman, this will be his 3rd time facing off against his alma mater. Talking about all those defensive trends, though, do you guys lean towards the under? The total here is 46.5. What do you think, Gabe?
I like the under.
You like the under, Danny?
Yeah.
There's just part of me that also thinks that Ohio State could put a high 30 number on the board, and then all of a sudden Notre Dame just has to score a handful of points and we're hitting the over. I tend to think it's going to be a lower scoring game, though, just with how good Notre Dame's defense has been all season long. And then Ohio State's defense, they got the best defense in the country. Yeah. The amount of talent at all 3 levels of that defense that they have is just ridiculous. And like you said, DK, if this is going to be a very close competitive game, Notre Dame's got to take them into the deep water.
Yep.
I don't know if they necessarily need to play keep away, but they need to dominate time of possession. This needs to be a low-scoring game if Notre Dame wants to have a chance in it. And maybe that's how the game script ends up playing out. If that's how it goes, if Notre Dame can establish the run early, if that offensive line, they can shuffle those guys around and they can find success running the football early, whether that's with Love or Riley Leonard or a combination of both, then yeah, I absolutely like the over or the under in this game. But it's hard to take that with all of the weapons that Ohio State has at Will Howard's disposal. Personally, I would stay away from the total. I just don't know how this game is going to play out.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid at all. This game,
what happened to discipline Danny? Where did discipline Danny go?
They're going to drag them in the mud, try to make this game ugly, try to dictate it. And I do think the kind of bend, don't break model that Texas showed defensively, Jeremiah Smith, you mentioned he only had the 1 catch. Even if he gets 3 or 4 catches, just don't let it be that big 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown play. Keep them in front of you. Notre Dame's secondary has been really solid all year long. I think they kind of showcased that ability to do it. And I don't envision a scenario where Notre Dame puts a lot of points up. So I like the note. And I think it's correlated play as well. Notre Dame with the points and the under kind of goes with that game plan of thinking Notre Dame can keep it close.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, Notre Dame highly opportunistic with turnovers. They're great in situational football. They got a good defense. and they can generally run the ball. I think that's a good recipe. So I lean towards the under. And again, I'm taking those 8 points with Notre Dame. But how about this matchup, guys? I mean, two of the most elite brands in all of college football, both wanting a national championship so badly. I'm looking at it right here. Of course, the game is in Atlanta, Georgia. The average ticket price, $2,269 to get in the door. That's your average ticket price. So Danny Kanell, Gabe Ikard, they'll take 8 together right there on the 50-yard line. Nothing.
Kanell told me he's going to pick up the ticket tab for both of us. Okay.
It's going to be a blast to watch. Surely going to be an amazing game as well. For all your latest lines, news, and odds, be sure to tap in to Bet Online. This has been the Spin Sports Insiders. Always great to break down all the college football action for you. Huge thanks to my man Gabe Ikard and our special guest for all the biggest games throughout the season, the one and only Danny Kanell. I'm Drew Butler. Allie, we'll throw it back to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. Amazing insight as always. Drew Butler, Gabe Ikard, and Danny Kanell. I mean, truly the best in the biz. So thank you again for that. And of course, for being here with us all season long. Now, Drew will be back with us in just a minute with the NFL. But first, I've got to tell you about BetOnline's new same game parlay builder. Something you might want to look at for this weekend's games. Combine full game markets with game and player props to turn a small wager into a huge payout. BetOnline's got thousands of betting options and combinations to choose from. The more selections you add, the bigger the payout. Cha-ching! I mean, it just makes sense. So hit the SGP button when looking at odds in the BetOnline Sportsbook, and of course, get in on all the action today. All right, well, here we are, down to the Elite Eight in the NFL with the divisional round this Saturday and Sunday. Here now to break it down for us, Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas. What's up, guys?
What's up, Allie? Thanks so much. I am back, and I'm joined alongside my guys, Anthony Becht and Jonathan Casillas, to preview the big weekend in the NFL. It's a divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And, guys, we have some awesome matchups. So let's dive right into it. Starting in the AFC on Saturday afternoon, the Houston Texans are headed to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Kickoff is at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time over on ESPN. And, Anthony, right now, the Chiefs are pretty big 9-point favorites here. It's a lower total. 41.5 is the over-under. Patrick Mahomes and company, they really haven't done much since Christmas Day.
Yeah, guys, I've been a humble soldier throughout the season, but when the playoffs come around and we expect players to show up, I think our fans deserve us to show up and make great picks. Okay? I was 3-0 on the show last week, 5-1 overall on all my picks, and everything kind of worked out exactly how I thought it was. It's interesting. This is an interesting game to me. I was kind of shocked when I saw the number, and I'm thinking to myself, why? And I kind of put my coaching hat on. And I remember when I was coaching last year during the week, we had a game versus a very good team that we knew we had to live up to the expectation. We knew we had to come out and play all levels, offense, defense, special teams at the highest level. And you saw it for 4 quarters. You saw that out of the Texans. I was so impressed by the way their defense, the way they played every single snap, their pass rush. They made it uncomfortable all game long. And when I look at Stroud, let's put the numbers aside. I think he didn't have his best season. I think teams catch on to really good players. They game plan well, but it showed that they had a really good plan as well. Nico Collins is a problem. Okay, Dalton Schultz is a problem. He really wasn't used that much. He could be a problem moving forward. They have all the pieces. Joe Mixon fumbled in the game, and he was yelling and screaming. He wanted the ball more, and he let one hit the turf. This team is properly coached with proper leadership to really make things happen. Now, the alternative on the analogy that I just gave you about me coaching, it was very hard for me the next week to get that exact type of steam and momentum to come out of my players, because I'm thinking, man, whatever I said, whatever we did last week, let's duplicate it, and it'll show up exactly like you did the week before. You know what, guys? You guys know as players, it doesn't happen that way. But I do believe that the Texans can come out of this game and make it a fight all the way through. Look, the Chiefs find ways to win. They know how to do it. They've been there. They're the team that's like, hey, let's just get to the playoffs. We know how to handle business. But I also believe as much as they'll be maybe up a touchdown or so in this game, the Texans got enough offense to continue to put points and not get blown out because of what their defense does at all levels, not just the front line, but the back end. So for that reason, guys, I'm going to take those points, man.
Wow.
Back, I think the Texans can cover in this one.
Anthony, you make a lot of great points, man. And I look at this Texas team and what they did in the playoffs last week. that was a team that we thought we were going to see the entire year. They had their ups and downs. CJ Stroud, he has it ups and downs the whole year. But why ever rely on a second-year guy when you got Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon showed up in the first playoff game, leading the team in rushing over 100 yards. The whole team rushed for about 170 yards on the ground. I think that's your focus when you go into the Kansas City Chiefs. When you go into Arrowhead, the team that you have to beat to win a Super Bowl. NFC quarterbacks know that. AFC quarterbacks know that. And I hope CJ Stroud got that memo. You got to go on the Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes. You can't just get gifted, right, a win. It's not going to happen. You got to go out there and take it. This team on the other side, the Kansas City Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator, one of the best, if not the best defensive coordinator of all time, definitely in postseason, with all the rings that he's accumulated over his tenure. They're going to be ready to play. No question. I don't care how much rust the Kansas City Chiefs has, they're going to be ready to play. This is the playoff championship caliber team led by a championship caliber quarterback, led by a championship caliber defense, led by a championship caliber head coach. So they got their hands full. But I'm with you, Anthony. I think it's just too many points. And if Houston can stick to the game plan, run the ball, probably still a possession or two, I think they'll be able to keep it close. I think the Chiefs win, but give me the points and give me the Texans.
All right, the doubters are out. The Kansas City Chiefs been getting doubted all season long, and guess what, guys? They're just trying to do something that no team in NFL history has ever done before. That's win 3 straight Super Bowl championships. These guys know how to win, all right? Throughout the 2024 season, the Kansas City Chiefs 11-0 in one-score games. Now, they only had a plus 59-point differential throughout the season, so they played a lot of close contests, but guess what? They figured out how to win those games. I mentioned it when we opened up, Anthony. Patrick Mahomes and company, they've essentially been off since Christmas Day. They had those 3 games in an 11-day stretch. They clinched the number 1 seed in that bye week, and now they've been resting. So could there be some rust, Jonathan? I don't care if there is, because this team knows what it takes to make a run and win a Super Bowl. Yes, of course, the Texans defense looked elite last week versus the Chargers. They forced Justin Herbert to throw 4 interceptions, and the route was on. I thought the Chargers were really dominant until about 1 minute left in the first half of that game, and then Houston really turned it on. But Andy Reid off a bye. Historically, in NFL history, he's the best to ever do it. I don't know if DeMeco Ryans can really challenge Andy Reid when Coach Reid has had so much time, especially looking at that tape of how much what went right with the Texans a week ago. Bringing back to your point, Anthony, can the Texans go back to back? Hey, look, last year, the Texans won Wild Card Weekend. Then they went to take on the top-seeded Ravens, and they got smoked. I think the same thing happens this year. The Chiefs are undefeated in Arrowhead. I'm laying those 9 points. Give me Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid off a bye. I don't think the Texans can go back-to-back with elite performances, so I'll lay 9 with the Chiefs. All right, let's go to Saturday night. We got a great and exciting matchup here in the NFC. The Washington Commanders, led by presumptive Rookie of the Year Jaden Daniels at quarterback, heading into the Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions. 8 p.m. kickoff Eastern time over on Fox. Again, on Saturday night, Anthony, the Lions, 9.5-point favorites, another big number. And how about this total? Could be a popcorn game here, 55 points for your over-under.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, listen, guys, I was in the stadium firsthand watching this Bucs-Commanders game. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I came out of that game is about, like, the moment is not big or big over the top for Jaden Daniels. I mean, this kid stood in the pocket. He did not look like he was shook, all that stuff. And on the road, guys, every team that played on the road last week had problems, right? They had their issues throughout. And Daniels found a way to galvanize his offense and his team. Cliff Kingsbury is a very good play caller. I'm not a big fan of him as a head coach. I don't think he's, that's his space. But as a play caller and the way they simplify things but make it look really good and different offensively will present problems for Aaron Glenn. And the element, too, of Jaden Daniels and his legs changes the dynamic for Aaron Glenn and what he wants to do. Yeah. It's a little different when you're in the pocket and you got a guy that's kind of stagnant. And, we saw that with Sam Darnold the last 2 weeks. Even though he's a guy that moves around, he chose to stay in the pocket, which is what they want. This is a kid that can move out. They do different things. I think the defense is where I start having question marks with the Commanders. They're good. They're okay. But man, like, I watched the Bucs really take advantage of him in the run game, and also in some phases in the passing game. They couldn't stop Mike Evans. Now, is there a Mike Evans type receiver on the Lions? Well, no, not from a size standpoint, but when you really break that down, how will the defenses play in this game? Again, guys, this is a big number, and I could totally see the Detroit Lions being up 10, 14 points in this game. But man, I just think the element of Jaden Daniels is going to present some problems. And I think if that's the case, what happens if this game's a little closer? Do the Lions continue to just, hey, this is who we are, we can do it? Or does pressure start kicking in? And the last thing, guys, these situations that come up for the Lions now, we've seen it in the playoffs. Everybody's talking about it during the year. Last year, fourth down opportunities, different things where Dan Campbell had to make these decisions. He's been good. He's got that 4-leaf clover all over the place. But when it matters now, you really got to think about these situations and what you think your team do. Does that moment come up in the game that cost them? So, again, I think it stays close, guys. It's too many points for me. I'm going to take those points in the Commanders.
Yeah, I'm looking at this game, and I'm trying to see which coordinator out of both teams are going to be coaching their last game. Was it Kingsbury? Is it Glenn? Is it Ben Johnson? Because all of these guys are doing a fantastic job with these teams. You look at, the Commanders and what they're doing this year. Jaden Daniels, a legendary rookie quarterback. He's taken his team where no rookie quarterback has, winning the playoff game. And he's performing very well. Cliff Kingsbury, I think he's doing a good job in mixing in not just the run game with the backs, but with his feet, with the quarterback's feet as well. But first game that they played in the playoff versus the Buccaneers, they only had the running backs only 44 yards rushing. They can't do this in Detroit because Detroit's going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to dictate what they want to do. It's hard to slow down that Detroit run game, how creative Ben Johnson is offensively calling calls. What is it, run plays, pass plays? Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, this guy, when he took over, you talk about the two-headed monster, the Sonic and Knuckles over there with Detroit Lions, and they're everything. They're everything. They're everything like that. The Commanders will have to do a good job in stopping him. If they can't stop this ground game, I expect the Detroit Lions to rout these guys. So it's all dependent on if they can stop. They can stop the run. They can stop the run, and they could do a job in keeping that ball, stealing a possession, not turning the ball over against the Lions. This is ideal. This is key. Because if not, the Detroit Lions will score 55 points by themselves. They're that good offensively. So for me, I don't think the Commanders are going to be able to handle the Detroit Lions. I'm going to lay the points. I'm going to go with the Lions.
Yeah, it's an exciting matchup, guys, here. Definitely elite, high-powered offenses, which brings in that high total of 55 points. And you got to give a lot of credit to Jaden Daniels. Anthony, I know you just said you saw him in person on the road as a rookie quarterback in the playoffs a week ago. Oh, and he's just the first rookie quarterback to win a road playoff game in the NFL since Russell Wilson back in 2012. So what he was able to accomplish, and having a little help from the upright there when Zane Casillas dinked in that 37-yarder to send the Commanders to the divisional round. Hey, that's just what you need at this point in the season. I feel like the Commanders are kind of playing with house money at this point. And what did the Commanders have on the defensive side of the ball to slow down Ben Johnson's creative play calling? It sounds like David Montgomery might be back up in the lineup for that Lions offense. You pair him with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff playing at a high level. Detroit is going to get theirs. But Anthony, you brought up a great point. How is Aaron Glenn going to attack Jaden Daniels? If he's blitz happy, Jaden Daniels is going to be able to get outside the pocket, make some crazy plays with his legs, and keep this game close. Jaden Daniels can take over a game the moment's not too big, especially against an aggressive defense like the Detroit Lions have. Talk about that aggressiveness. Yeah, will Dan Campbell go for it? Will he be gambling Dan? He very well may. That's his MO. I think this game will be a little bit closer than anticipated Lions win, but this is too many points. I'll take the Commanders plus 9.5. All right, let's move on to Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time kickoff over on NBC. This is the other NFC Divisional Round playoff game. The Los Angeles Rams heading east to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Right now, Anthony, the Eagles, 5.5-point favorites at BetOnline. The total, 43.5 points.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I picked the Rams last week, and quite frankly, I was really impressed with their defensive plan. Yeah. I mean, for having those players rise up young, hungry players on the defense to scheme up and really, quite frankly, everybody's talking about Sam Darnold. Is he worth the money? I think we need to question, the play calling and some of the things that Kevin O'Connell had in place. Because I didn't see any options for Sam Darnold to throw. I mean, yeah, he missed a bunch, but why are we putting all the heat on the quarterback? We get it. He's the guy, but man, the guy got sacked, 8 times? I mean, there was just a lot of issues in that game, but you got to give the Rams a lot of credit for their plan and the weaknesses that they exposed for that Vikings team. So a huge win for them. On the flip side for the Eagles, when I watch that game, it's like, man, they just kind of bore you to death and win. Like, great defense.
Yep.
They make plays. They run the ball. Everything they do functionally is really good. They didn't wow me last week. It's probably the only game I watched. I was like, they won the game. I thought they'd win it, but it wasn't anything exciting. I thought Jalen Hurts getting back on the field kind of helps him, a little bit of a tune-up moving forward. But I'll be honest now, to go back to my original analogy about the teams playing lights out on defense the week before and they have a letdown, I see a little bit more of a letdown for the Rams defense because they're so young. A lot of rookies, a lot of young players. I don't know if they know what it means or takes to bounce back, and they may feel as if, hey, we're just going to show up and play the same way. It's a big mental game and you're processing when you're trying to go against a team really as physical as the Eagles. So the Eagles play great defense. We talked about it, and they run the ball really, really well. I think those things really batter down a young, enthusiastic defense and really set the tone. I think the Eagles do cover this number. I think they win by at least a touchdown. They're at home. I just feel like that's the combination right now. Even though they didn't play their best game, they can handle business versus the Rams on the road, and they're hoping for a really cold day in Philadelphia. And if they get that, that could be an advantage for them as well.
Yeah, that young Rams team led by Verse, Fisk, Young, and Turner. But on the other side, you look at Matthew Stafford, he's not young. He's experienced. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think the combination of him and everything that he got, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp on offense, the way they run the ball with Kyron Williams, that defense, I think, is going to travel well. Philadelphia Eagles, they're also our experienced team. Jalen Hurts, I don't think he played that well the first playoff game this year. They gave Saquon Barkley 27 touches, A.J. Brown only 1.
Yeah.
That can't happen in this round. You have to figure out a way to pass the ball downfield. They only had 13 completions, Anthony. I don't think you win a game relying on Saquon Barkley against this offense with Matthew Stafford. He's going to be able to put up some points. Now, the Eagles defense, they're there, and I think they're going to travel well. But Matthew Stafford, he's the guy who won a Super Bowl. He knows what it takes. I don't think nerves is going to be an issue with him. He's going to get Cooper Kupp involved in this game, and I think A.J. Brown needs to be involved in this game too for the Eagles to come out on top. I love the Eagles in this game, but I do think the Rams keep it close. So give me the points, and I'll take the Rams on the road.
All right, guys. To me, this was the easiest handicap of divisional round weekend, and you might be surprised in which direction I'm going. The Los Angeles Rams are certainly rounding into form late in the season, and when you look at the path that they took to win their Super Bowl over the Cincinnati Bengals a couple of years ago, it's eerily similar to the path that they have this postseason. Now, am I saying the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl? No, I'm not. But get this. In their last 4 games of the season, including this past weekend's wild card game, take out week 18 because they said everybody, Rams defense has only allowed single digits. So this defense is playing at an extremely high level. And we all know that if you limit Saquon Barkley and the Eagles rushing attack, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' passing offense is pedestrian at best. So when you look at a quarterback matchup, Matthew Stafford against Jalen Hurts, I mean, come on. Matthew Stafford in spades is way better, way more qualified in postseason football to push the ball down the field than Jalen Hurts. So a clear advantage in the passing game for the Los Angeles Rams. Yes, I know. The Eagles do have the best defense in the NFL. Highly disruptive. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, all those guys are getting after the quarterback. They did it to Jordan Love in the wild card weekend. But to me, I got to ride with the Rams here and the point. Sean McVay, he thrives in moments like this. I think in situational football, he certainly will have an advantage over Nick Sirianni as well. Rams will sell out to slow down Saquon Barkley, Put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands. This will be a close one. Give me 5.5 points with the Los Angeles Rams up in Philadelphia. All right, we're saving the best for last. This is going to be an unbelievable playoff game in the AFC. The Baltimore Ravens are heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on Sunday over on CBS. This line all over the place, guys. Bills opened up as a favorite. Anthony, now the Ravens are 1-point favorites. This total, 51.5 points.
Yeah, you're right. This is the game of the week. And, quite frankly, there's not a lot of discrepancy here to talk about. I think there's one factor. Which quarterback has to do less to win this game? And I think it's Lamar Jackson. And to me, that's the difference in this game. He's got a running back that's exceptional. That's a problem. When you team it up with a guy that can move like Lamar and the way they call plays, that puts a defense on edge. I just think Josh Allen, he's had a fantastic year. He's asked to do a lot. And he does a lot of things that you're like, man, this is awesome and this is great and this is MVP level. But there's some things I'm like, I worry that, man, that's dangerous, and they're able to get away with it and it looks really good. I think Lamar Jackson not only wins this game for the Ravens, he wins the MVP because of it. Wow. I like the Ravens going here. I think this is his best year as an NFL quarterback, and he's won multiple MVP trophies prior to this. So, guys, I'm rolling it all. I'm pushing all my chips on the Ravens in this game on the road.
Yeah, I hear you, Anthony. And you talk about, the MVP race. I think it's between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and I don't know if this game is going to be the indicator on who wins that, but I think it can be, a great barometer on who's actually winning playoff games. I think we're going to be able to see that. Lamar Jackson has been phenomenal every single year, right? He could potentially be a third-time winning MVP, but we question his playoff abilities, his playoff focus, right? Can he do the same thing he did during the regular season? Can he do it in the playoffs? I think Derrick Henry helps him answer that question because it's not all on him, right? When you look at Buffalo and Josh Allen, I think the reason why he's being considered for MVP because it is all on him. And I'm not saying they're not talented because they are. Buffalo Bills, they definitely have some talent. Cook, Shazier, all of the receivers. I mean, Josh Allen is the one-man show. I think it's just too much riding on one man in this game. And both teams are very talented, right? Buffalo this year, they're smoked teams, right? Baltimore smoked Buffalo at one point this season, right? Because Baltimore, when their defense showed up, like they've been showing up the last month of this season, including the playoffs, they're almost unstoppable. The amount of points that their offense can score, now that their defense is kind of keeping up with their offense, I mean, it's really hard. And look, I think this team, whoever wins this game, is going to be able to challenge, of course, if the Chiefs can handle the Texans, of course. I think they'll be able to challenge and go into Arrowhead and give the Chiefs some problems, whoever wins this game. But I'm going to take the Ravens on the road, minus a point. I just love Lamar Jackson. I think he's improved, and I think this Ravens offense with Derrick Henry is improved offense.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome game, guys. As I mentioned, the Bills opened up as short 1-point favorites. It's flipped now at BetOnline. The Ravens are 1-point favorites, and I see this one as the immovable object against the unstoppable force. And what do I mean by that? Well, when the Bills went to Baltimore, as Jonathan just mentioned back in week 4, Baltimore smoked Buffalo 35-10. Derrick Henry had 199 yards. However, this game is in Buffalo, and the Bills are undefeated at home so far this season. Poor Josh Allen. I mean, this guy cannot catch a break. Being in the AFC, you got to go up against Lamar Jackson. You win this game, you're probably going to have to go up against Patrick Mahomes. Guess what? Joe Burrow, he's always in the mix as well. The Buffalo Bills, this seems like one of their better opportunities in recent memory, but man, the Ravens are playing some great football. Derrick Henry has taken the load off of Lamar Jackson in such a way that it's really freed up this Baltimore offense. Keep in mind, a year ago, Baltimore inexplicably went away from the run game in the AFC Championship matchup against the Chiefs. So what do they do in the offseason? They said, we're not going to let that happen again. We're going to go get Derrick Henry. And of course, that has worked out very well so far. The Ravens defense has improved all season long. The Bills defense has been good as well. How will Josh Allen be able to attack Baltimore's defense? Anthony, you said it. He's most likely going to have to do it all by himself. Here is the one statistic that really jumped out at me, guys. Baltimore has 8 wins over playoff teams so far this season, and all 8 of those wins have been by at least a touchdown. Josh Allen, I hate to do this to you. I'm taking the Ravens. I'm laying the 1 point. Baltimore makes it back to the AFC Championship game. It's going to be an unbelievable weekend. Divisional round, always so much fun in the NFL playoffs. Thanks for keeping it locked in right here on the Spin Sports Insiders. Of course, all lines, news, and odds provided by Bet Online. For my guys, Anthony Becht and Jonathan Casillas, I'm Drew Butler. Allie, we'll throw it back to you and see you next week.
Well, thank you so much to the guys who've literally been there, done that, my friends, and that is all we have for you today. But before I sign off, a big thank you once again to BetOnline for providing all the odds on today's show. Be sure to get everything you need for the NFL playoffs and, of course, the CFP at BetOnline. But hey, that's it, my friends. Enjoy what is sure to be an amazing weekend of football. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you right here next time on Sports Insiders The Spin.